So you want to start making pour-over coffee at home, but you have no idea what equipment you should buy? Well, in this video, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to get started making pour-over coffee at home. Let's get into it. For the bare minimum, what I think you need is going to be some sort of pour-over brewer. You need a Gooseneck Kettle and a scale that's fairly accurate and can measure in grams. For the pour-over method, I recommend going with the Hario V60. Essentially what it is it's just a cone-shaped coffee dripper. Hario makes these in a variety of materials and designs. I'll put a link in the description below for the Hario Amazon store. You can browse through there and see there's some pretty cool stuff on there. This is kind of like the industry standard pour over. If you go to a lot of independent coffee shops and you ask for a pour over, they're probably gonna use a V60 to make it. You'll even see the V60 used in coffee brewing competitions, so you really can't go wrong with it, and it's like super affordable, and so that's why I'm recommending it. What I use and what I recommend is the V60 decanter. What this includes is this glass decanter, this rubberized handle, and a plastic cone that's specially designed to fit inside this decanter. This is big enough that you can brew multiple cups of coffee at one time, and I like that it all fits together in one unit. Also, a big thing for me is that it's very aesthetic. It looks super cool. I know maybe that sounds a little bit weird. I mean, like, who cares what it looks like as long as it brews great coffee, right? But the thing is, when we're in this kind of specialty coffee world where we're doing manual brewing, I mean, the experience of brewing is just as important as the end result. And so anything that we can do to kind of enhance the experience along the way just kind of makes everything better. You get this whole thing for a little bit over 20 bucks. You do need to buy filters separately though, but all in all, I think it's a really great deal for what it is. Then for the kettle, I recommend this Hario Gooseneck Kettle. I've had this thing for a super long time and it's held up great. Having a Gooseneck Kettle is really important when we're doing pour over coffee because this kind of spout style gives us a lot of control over the rate that we're pouring the water. If you use a typical water kettle that has those like bigger spouts, as you pour, it's hard to control the water and the water kind of goes everywhere. But when we're doing something like a V60, we really want to make sure that we're controlling the water flow and where the water is going. So this thing works out well. It's also really insulated. And so, you know, you kind of think as you're brewing coffee, as the water level starts to decrease, the temperature is also going to start to decrease more rapidly. And so it's really important that the water kettle is really well insulated just to maintain a consistent water temperature. And I think this does a really good job at it. It is a little expensive though, like this thing costs almost $50. I'll put a link for this in the description below, but then I'll also put a link for a more like budget alternative to this that I think will work pretty well. And then the third thing that I think is really important is a decent scale. I mean, you can go down a whole rabbit trail on the internet of, you know, different scales and, you know, how accurate they are and what they can do. But honestly, I think, you know, if you're just kind of getting into pour over coffee, just like a basic kitchen scale is going to do the job pretty well. And so those are the three things that I think are kind of like the bare minimum essentials that you need to get started doing pour overs. Now, you may have noticed that I left out of my essentials a coffee grinder, and that's intentional because really the only kind of coffee grinder I can recommend is a nice Burr Grinder, and those can get kind of pricey. And so when you're first getting into coffee, you know, you may just want to hold off on that investment and just have your beans ground wherever you buy them. Buy whole bean coffee, have it ground fresh at the time that you're buying it, and only get as much as you're going to use in that week, because by the end of that week, the coffee is going to be like noticeably stale. Like it's going to taste flat and dull. Now, as you can probably imagine, the next thing I'm going to recommend if you have some money to play around with is a Burr Grinder. The one that I use is made by Compresso. I think they sell for about $100 currently, which is a bit of an investment, but I think it's worth it. I've had this thing for probably 6 or 7 years now, and it still grinds really well. It's really even and like consistent. I mean, it's at like cafe level performance. I did see on Amazon though, I did see a Burr Grinder that was like around $40. I can't necessarily recommend it because I haven't used it, but it did seem to have a lot of positive reviews. So I'll put a link in the description below if you're kind of curious about that. And then something else that I recommend if you got some money to throw around is a Chemex Brewer. Now, a Chemex and a V60 brew coffee in a very similar way, and I'm not even implying that a Chemex necessarily makes a better cup of coffee than a V60. It's just that a Chemex costs a lot more. For a big 8-cup Chemex like this one, it's gonna cost you like 50 bucks, and filters cost like twice as much as they do for a V60. But I do think that you get a ton more aesthetic value out of a Chemex. I mean, just like looking at it, they just look super awesome with the glass, wood, the leather tie, I mean the wood bead, and then when you have the paper filter in it, they just look super cool. I know it sounds weird, but when it comes to brewing coffee, you know, the brewing experience is just as important as the end result of great tasting coffee. And so I think a Chemex is a great way to go if you can afford it. Okay guys, that's what I got for you. If you're feeling intimidated by any of this, I mean, just get whatever looks cool, honestly. Try it out for like 6 months and you can always try something new later. I mean, half the fun of brewing coffee is just trying out different styles and methods. So if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one, and let me know in the comments below what you ended up buying and how well it worked out for you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, later.